Though we don't have definitive confirmation yet, I think it's not that far away. But as of right now, there's some things out there in the ether that have me very convinced that Agatha All Along, the most recent Marvel entry on Disney Plus, is actually performing markedly worse than even The Acolyte from Disney Star Wars and Kathleen Kennedy's Lucasfilm, which would be a spectacular feat. Renegade Online. And I'll say this, having watched it, it's really just, it's a snore. First 15, 20 minutes, she's in like this true crime cop drama. It's very jarring. It's very serious. It's very dour. And my first reaction to it was, I don't know how the normies are going to kind of grab into this. How many people really remember or even watched WandaVision to begin with? And I know we've had a very similar shill media, just like we did with The Acolyte, talking about how great this is and how amazing it is and how awesome it is. But I have a feeling that even though the audiences, at least insofar as Rotten Tomatoes is suggesting or was, that the audience score for this show is similar to that of the critics' score, at the end of the day, is the audience score that meaningful? It can be, but it also might not be. And that's because if the audience score is based on a lack of audience, then it really doesn't matter, does it? But here's how I already feel pretty confident that it doesn't, it's just not there. Let's go back to this. Now, everybody remembers Ahsoka, right? Remember Disney, for the first time ever, they put out data, their own data on a show. And they said in the first 5 days after release that Ahsoka, Star Wars Ahsoka from Kathleen Kennedy, Disney Lucasfilm, raked in about 14 million views globally, which was, it was okay, but it wasn't a banger. And we showed some of these numbers from the Netflix chart, their own internal data, and how Ted Sarandos, co-CEO of Netflix, earlier this week called out Disney Plus and all the other streamers out there to release the same kind of lists that they've now been putting out for the last 6 to 12 months of their own internal streaming data. And I mean, it's literally everything on Netflix. Those spreadsheets are thousands of lines long. It's insane. They put everything out there. And we're due for the next one for the first half of 2024, if history is any guide, sometime in December. But Disney put that out right after the first 5 days. Then The Acolyte came out, which is here on the screen, okay? After taking a light speed trip. Now, let me switch these up here. Oh, I must have had another one. Well, we'll just use this. They came out with 2 press releases for The Acolyte, and I thought I had them both. I just have the second one. 4.8 million views for The Acolyte after 24 hours. Global views. Global, okay? That ramped up to 11.1 million views globally based on the first 5 days of streaming. So from Tuesday to Wednesday to Thursday to Friday to Saturday to Sunday, release plus 4. 5 days, okay? 11.1 million. Sharply less than even Ahsoka was. Now, here's the problem. It's been 4 days since Agatha All Along came out. Disney has already established that they are going to release data like this because they've done it. They have set the precedent. There is no such press release for Agatha All Along anywhere. It's been 4 days. Now,
I'm sure they're getting around to it, Valiant. It's a holiday maybe somewhere. I don't know.
On the same Disney website. The same Disney website where all these press releases for Acolyte, for Ahsoka, and all of them come out.
You're just a chauvinist. I bet you're one of the ones running the Russian troll farms review bombing this thing. You horrible, horrible man. How dare you?
Results for Agatha. I was like, I don't even want to, I'm just going to put Agatha. Anything with Agatha in the title. A magical look at the making of Agatha All Along. No, that's not it. Disney Plus debuts a trailer for Marvel Television's new series, Agatha All Along. Whoop, that's it. A Haunting in Venice. See, now we're way out of it. D23, Probably had some mention of Agatha all along. Let's see, when was this one published here?
I'm sure Iger told us at one point that Disney was going to do well.
September 17th. September 17th. Okay.
A magical look.
So, well, September 17th was 5 days ago. That was right before it came out, so they were writing about it then. Strangely, nothing since. So let me tell you what's going on here.
They're just taking a really long Labor Day. Really long.
I think I know what they're going to do, or at least what they're trying to do. Here's my prediction.
What do you got?
They're going to do a press release at some point this week on this show. They're going to wait until they have enough days of data to where it's at least more comparable and hope nobody notices. Meaning, right now, I think they didn't release a 24-hour figure, right? And the critics all agreed that Agatha all along is an amazing show that everybody's going to love, that everybody's going to watch. And this is going to be so great. It was so great, of course, that, remember Kathryn Hahn, even on the red carpet, when you had the guy from Variety asking how gay the show was. Yeah, she said, and I quote, that there was not going to be a second season. You know, it was one and done. You know, so
preemptively
it's like,
acolyted this sucker.
Yeah, exactly. That was the biggest clue to how bad the viewership that Disney expected for the show to be, was that they had already, like, this is a one-off. We ain't going back here. Now,
deader than a lightsaber-wielding Wookiee, baby.
Yeah. I mean, I know that I get the fact that Marvel and Pixar and everybody else in there, people that were churning out cannon fodder for Disney Plus, they're all getting pulled in. I mean, or pulled back, I should say. Reined in is what I meant to go with. But it's just, this is one of those shows that, like, they're not going to cancel or not renew stuff that is blindingly successful. It's just that this show clearly is not among them. Disney has not released anything yet. They didn't release anything after 48 hours with the first 24 hours. They could not get this thing with the Acolyte out. Again, oops, wrong one. The Acolyte one, let me go back here. I mean, they dropped that, okay? They dropped that like within a day or two of the show coming out Tuesday night. By Thursday morning, right? So it came out on a Tuesday night. By Wednesday night would have been the first 24 hours. By Thursday morning, we had that first press release of 4.8 million views. They had the 11.1 million views the day after it hit day 5. So, like, that was a Sunday. They claimed Monday morning they had the next press release out with 11.1 million views. Again, that was over 5 days. Ahsoka's 14 million views was over 6 days. So it was a little bit different. Okay.
As I recall, this did not translate to good Nielsen numbers.
No. And what I think is going to happen is Disney is going to try to get to at least release +6, or they might go all the way a week out. They might go all the way to this Wednesday night when the next episode comes out, and then release something that says Agatha all along gets, you know.
I don't know how they're going to do it, because the first episode was unwatchable.
I know the headline. I know exactly what it's going to be. Agatha all along scores the highest MCU Disney Plus audience of 2024. Because the only other show was Echo.
Wait, you've inspired me. They'll come out and say Agatha all along scores highest Disney MCU spinoff premiere in streaming services history.
In 2024.
Because it's the only MCU Disney Plus spinoff.
If Acolyte got 4.8 million views in the first 24 hours, I think if Agatha had been anywhere close to this number, why wouldn't you drop that? Why wouldn't you immediately come out and go, bruh, look at this? I'm telling you, not only was this not close or not over it, I was probably woefully behind.
Well, let's just say what's difficult to believe but true. Mm-hmm. The first 2 episodes of The Acolyte are better than the first 2 episodes of Agatha.
That is terrifying, but you're right.
Agatha is, listen, if I was not doing this professionally, I mean, I'm reviewing it for a website and for the channel, first episode was unwatchable. Yep. So that's why the viewership can't be good, because if I'm a normal viewer, I didn't make it to episode 2, because after 10 minutes of episode 1, I turn it off and say, I don't know what the crap that is.
I was bored. Let me tell you, and this is the problem. The biggest problem with Agatha is that it's a show that has no idea what the hell it wants to be. I mean, it's trying to be. I mean, okay, if you look at the cast, right? your initial reaction as a viewer, a common normie viewer. And obviously, this is a show that was built to appeal more to a female audience, right? And to a female audience that loves sitting down and laughing at Kathryn Hahn rom-com movies. That's what this is for. This what they're going for, that audience. And if they weren't going for that audience with this show, then Disney's stupid. But not only that, you also have in there Aubrey Plaza, who's popular with a lot of that same crowd. Like my wife rewatches Parks and Rec all the time. Okay, she loves that show. It's a good show. And Aubrey Plaza in it, she's fantastic. She's a great actress. Kathryn Hahn, I think, is pretty good in a lot of the stuff she does for what she does. More the comedic role. But it's like you said, Pro, the first 20 minutes of that show is just dead serious, dour, boring. What am I watching? It's literally Kathryn Hahn in a dream state. She's a FBI detective doing true crime investigations, forensic analysis.
Right, it's pointless. There's no reason for it.
If they needed to have something at the beginning of the show, like a bang, like to remind you the last 5 seconds of WandaVision and what's going on, but they threw you into this and they dragged this out. I thought way too long. Like they could have gotten away with this for the first few minutes, but there needed to be more little flash something in there to go, you're watching a Marvel show. Because you had no idea what the hell you were watching. But it took 15, 20 minutes to get to the point where, Aubrey Plaza kind of wakes her up out of her daze, and then we actually move on to her being awake and alert and running through the street naked. You get to see her butt.
It's a fever dream with no payoff.
Yeah.
And Disney has finally succeeded in, for the very first time ever, putting a naked woman on Disney Plus and having absolutely nobody care. Good job, Disney.
Yeah, I know. It's like, her butt wasn't all that bad to look at. I'll give her that much. But apart from that, yeah, it's look, the problem is the show isn't funny. I don't think I even laughed once. And as much as I'm so sick and tired of, of course, you get the one male character in the show is incredibly effeminate. And it's just he's unwatchable for me. I can't even know. That's enough. But again, you want to go with the whole excuse of, well, this show wasn't made for you. That's fine. Not every show is made for me. That's not a problem. But as we continue to remind folks out there, and Disney and Wall Street, of course, is that this is part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It has a very well-defined, very well-known audience, and it's not this show. Again, if Disney had spent $40 to $50 million making this show, it's fine. But we know they didn't. There hasn't been a single Marvel or Star Wars show on Disney Plus with a budget like that. They have all been at least 2, 3, 4 times that much. That's where the problems come in. Because if you've got Netflix out there spending maybe an average of $30 to $50 million on either buying or producing a very simple show, and a lot of it reality programming or sitcom or stuff like this, or just licensing stuff, and they're getting way bigger engagement. I'm talking 3, 4, 5 times. I don't know if you saw this Wednesday, but we talked about Murder Mystery 2, a regular Adam Sandler movie that came out last year. Do you remember that one?
I do, yeah.
Okay, do you know, according to Netflix, how many people watched Murder Mystery 2 around the world? I think in the first few months that it was out.
No. That's been a while ago. No, I can't recall exactly.
About 70 million.
Oh, I was going to guess like 30.
70. If you look at it had something like, I think the total watch hours was like, it was something like 80 something. I got to go back and find it, but it might have been 50. I got to go back. It was I think it might have been 73 million hours watched, I think is what it was. And it's a 90-minute film. So it translated back down to something like, I did the math on, but it was still a ton. I mean, it was tens of millions, basically tens of millions of watches on this thing. And the point being that you look at what you're getting here with Agatha all along. And it's just look at Acolyte. Look at even some of the best stuff on Disney Plus. And we had this conversation Wednesday about Disney Plus is just not a system where people go to watch stuff. It just isn't. Netflix, people will go scour through, see what's there. They'll watch one thing, then they'll go find something else to watch. And it's exactly the kind of system that Netflix has deliberately built. David Zaslav has talked about this with HBO Max. That they want to make it a place that people really stick around and continue to engage in. They find something else, and they find something else. And what's going for Max is they have that Warner Brothers library, which is enormous. It's the biggest library of any Hollywood studio. So Max is very healthy from that standpoint. And people who get Disney Plus, well, they don't think about necessarily turning around and getting Hulu. And we can see that in the numbers. Disney Plus has 100-something million subscribers around the world, and Hulu has maybe half of that. So it's a very different dynamic, unless and until Disney kind of puts everything together. And D-Bud, I saw you just sent me something. Yeah, that's the one from September 13th, and that's exact. Thank you, D-Bud. That's the one I didn't find. I'll mention this since we have it up real quick, and D-Bud just sent me this in the private chat. Appreciate you, buddy.
It may be what I've been trying to get a hold of. The reason I've been quiet, I've been trying to find what I think you're about to put up on the screen.
Well, this is my point. I think the numbers just aren't out yet. It's this one right here. I was reading this one earlier today because this is the most recent one I could find. Luminate streaming ratings. This is September 13th. So they haven't put out one. And the problem was the one before this was released on September 3rd. It's really like they don't have a set release window. I don't know why. But the way the measurements themselves, because again, the other part of this is that Luminate has the data. The problem is it's when Variety gets around to writing the article for the data that they get. It's not Luminate per se. It's Variety putting out the piece. So yeah, theoretically, one should have come out on September 20th, but I wasn't able to find anything. So I'm hoping that by tomorrow we'll get that. And this was one of the ones that basically confirmed that the Rings of Power viewership was falling off a cliff. Yeah. It is nosediving. There's no parachute. The bungee cord broke. And there's nothing but razor sharp spikes and alligators at the bottom that they're diving into. I mean, it's just bad. It's really, really bad. But Amazon is stuck in there. September 13th through 19th. This is the actual Luminate data. They don't have the article yet. Now, Agatha All Along premiered Wednesday, right? Wednesday?
Yes.
Yeah, Wednesday was September 18th, right? Okay.
Yes, September 18th. So
right. Wednesday. So basically, this, to be totally fair, this caught, and I don't know, I would think the September 19th, it rolls through the end of September 19th through midnight. So in theory, this would have
48 hours.
Well, it would have caught all of Wednesday and then into Thursday night. Thursday night was the 19th. So we
don't know the time zone here. We don't know the time zone that Luminate uses, but
Luminate uses Pacific, from my understanding.
That's what I was going to guess.
Yeah, like Nielsen. So here's the deal. They have about 28 hours, right? Because it premiered on a Wednesday night at 8 o'clock my time, so 6 o'clock Pacific, I guess. And that ran through 6 o'clock Pacific the next night, Thursday, the 19th. That's 24 hours. So add another 6 hours to that, midnight. So
this is a subcategory, though. This is not the top 10 streaming. This is the top 10 streaming originals for television.
Right.
So I'm sorry if most of your viewership comes on the first and second night.
Typically,
if you didn't get enough in 2 episodes, not 1 episode, 2 episodes,
right,
to get in the top 10 of a subcategory. This is bad.
No, it's bad. And here's the deal. I want you to imagine this for a second. Remember, Agatha All Along premiered with 2 episodes that averaged about 45 minutes apiece. So we're talking about roughly a 90-minute film. We're talking about Murder Mystery 2. That was exactly a 90-minute Adam Sandler Netflix movie that 50 to 70 million people. I got to go back and pull up the chart.
If they didn't break 230, they didn't break 300 for the week. That's how this works.
No.
It's totally front loaded on this
No.
viewership.
And
if they didn't break 300, good golly, look out.
90. So you had 90 minutes of consumable watch time for this show, this new Marvel show, this new $150-200 million debacle. Okay. That again, we'll remind folks, like I said before, on the interview carpet, when the guy from Variety was asking Kathryn Hahn and Aubrey Plaza and everybody else on the show, I've heard this is the gayest Marvel thing ever. Is this true? One of the things that Kathryn Hahn said that she confirmed that there would be no second season for this. This was a one and done. So they'd already thrown the towel for this thing, just to give you an idea. So it's not on the chart. 90 minutes, right? And this is in estimated minutes watched. Minutes watched, not hours like the Netflix charts. Minutes. It ain't there. I mean, you think about this. If 90 minutes of available watch time was out there, if 1 million people had watched it, right? And again, this is just the U.S. If 1 million households had watched it, that would be 90 million minutes, right? If 3 million people had watched it, it'd be 270 million minutes watched. This is how Disney reports internally.
Okay. How many Disney Plus subscribers are there? How many households do we have? How many
in North America where this tracks? Sure. 45 million-ish at last count.
So then we know that way less than 3 million tuned in, because you're right, it would have charted. And if way less than 3 million tuned in, and there's 40 million-ish accounts in North America, you're talking about way down there in terms of percentage of Disney households decided they were interested at all in Agatha. This is really bad. This is so bad that I think this might hit Willow territory, where we might see it appear on Nielsen in a subcategory maybe twice, maybe once. This is bad.
Here's the thing. I don't even know if that's going to happen, because again, The Acolyte at least had the benefit of episode 3, which was a catastrophe.
Right.
And people watched it just to see the horror show, and then that was it. They were done. The show just died in the ratings. It was done. Nobody watched it. It was over. This thing is not showing up. Granted, and like I said, this debuted on a Wednesday. The Acolyte debuted on a Tuesday, right? When the Acolyte appeared in this chart, its first week with the first 2 episodes. It had an extra 24 hours. It had 54 hours versus 30 hours, or thereabout, in the chart, but it had more hours. It had a first full 2 days in there, and it charted. I think it came in at around, wasn't it 250 or 300 million? It wasn't a lot, but it charted. This didn't. And the fact, like I said, you compound this with the reality that the Walt Disney Company has not issued a press release for the first 24 hours of figures like they did with The Acolyte, and they have not issued any other press release for this. I expect to see the Walt Disney Company sit on this until they have numbers that at least look decent. It might take a week, but they'll say in the first 7 days, Agatha All Along has racked up 9 million views globally. I don't even know if it's that much.
Disney did everything they could to make that look as good as they could.
Yeah.
You're talking about really long episodes, back to back, trying to do anything
long for
possible.
Disney. Long 45 minutes or long episodes
45 minutes combined together. That was a Hail Mary to get this thing on the board. It has totally failed.
Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.